Mommy, hi, Mommy.
Hi, Mom Yanis.
Breaking. Alex Eala's mother explodes at WTA and haters. Demands 24-hour ultimatum after Qatar Open injustice. Welcome back to Champions Tennisitics, the only channel that gives you the raw, unfiltered, and absolutely explosive truth behind the headlines that the mainstream tennis world does not want you to see. Today, we are diving headfirst into a story so charged with emotion, so dripping with controversy, and so loaded with righteous fury that it has set the entire professional tennis community ablaze from Doha to Manila, from London to Madrid, and everywhere in between. This is not just a story about a tennis match. This is not just a story about a scoreline. This is a story about a broken system, a young warrior pushed far beyond her human limits, a fan base betrayed by their own toxic minority, and a mother, a fierce, unstoppable, lion-hearted mother, who has finally looked the entire tennis establishment dead in the eyes and said, enough is enough. So buckle up, Champions Tennisitics family, because today we are going all the way in, and by the time this is over, you are going to feel every single ounce of the fire, the pain, and the passion that is surrounding one of the most electrifying stories in modern women's tennis. We are talking about the pride and joy of the Philippines, the girl who has carried an entire nation on her shoulders since she was a teenager, the historic trailblazer who has rewritten what is possible for Asian women in professional tennis, Eala. Just days ago, Alex stepped onto the sun-baked courts of Doha for the 2026 Qatar Open, a prestigious WTA 1000 event that should have been another glorious chapter in her already staggering rise to the top of the sport. Instead, what unfolded was a tragedy of historic proportions, a 7-6, 6-1 loss to the Czech Republic's 18-year-old Teresa Valentova that left millions of fans across the Philippines and the world in stunned, heartbroken silence. But the defeat itself, as painful as it was only the beginning. Because what came after the final point was struck ignited a firestorm that is still raging as we speak, and it has the WTA, tournament organizers, and the entire global tennis community scrambling to respond. Let us paint the full picture, because context is everything here, and without it, you simply cannot understand the volcanic magnitude of what Alex's mother did when she finally spoke up. You cannot look at that 7-6, 6-1 scoreline in isolation and pretend it tells the whole story. You cannot look at a result on paper and ignore the human being behind it. So let us go back and trace every single step that led Alex Eala to that court in Doha. Because the road she traveled to get there is one of the most grueling, punishing, and frankly outrageous journeys any young player on the WTA Tour has had to endure in recent memory. Cast your mind back to the Australian Open, which kicked off the 2026 Grand Slam season in Melbourne with all of its trademark heat and spectacle. Alex Eala was there, and she did not just show up. She announced herself to the world in the most emphatic terms possible. She produced a jaw-dropping run through the draw that left seasoned tennis analysts rubbing their eyes in disbelief, defeating ranked opponents with a brand of aggressive, fearless, technically brilliant tennis that bore all the hallmarks of a player destined for the very top of the sport. The Philippines erupted. Social media was flooded with Filipino flags, tears of joy, and celebrations that stretched from Luzon to Mindanao. Here was their girl, their history maker, their Alexandra, competing at the very highest level on the grandest stage the sport has to offer, and winning. It was a moment of pure national pride that transcended sports entirely. And she was not done. Fresh off Melbourne, Alex took her game to the WTA 500 event in Abu Dhabi, and once again, she delivered. She powered through to the quarterfinal in what was another astonishing display of talent, grit, and competitive intelligence. She climbed into the world's top 40, a milestone that no Filipino woman in singles tennis had ever reached before. Think about that for a moment. Not just reaching a number on a computer, not just winning a few matches, but genuinely breaking through the ceiling of what had ever been thought possible for tennis in the Philippines. She was playing some of the best tennis of her life. Her ground strokes were crisp, her movement was sharp, her mental game was evolving at a rate that had coaches and commentators all over the world taking serious notice. So what did the WTA scheduling machine do with this magnificent, ascending, physically taxed young woman who had just poured every last drop of herself in a back-to-back tournament runs across 2 different continents? Did they give her a rest? Did they allow her body, a body that is still only in its early 20s and still developing its professional resilience, to recover? Did they sit down, look at the calendar, look at the human being, and make a compassionate, sensible decision? Absolutely not. They shipped her straight to Doha, straight into the furnace of a WTA 1000 event, with its longer draws, its tougher fields, its relentless pressure and public scrutiny, with barely enough time to wash her tennis kit between tournaments. The jet lag alone from the constant Middle Eastern circuit travel would floor a seasoned professional, let alone a young player in the middle of the most demanding stretch of her career. And here is where it gets even more infuriating. When Alex arrived in Doha and was placed into the draw, tournament organizers made a decision that can only be described as a slap in the face to one of the hottest tickets in women's tennis right now. They scheduled her on an outside court, not a stadium court, not one of the premium show courts with a roof and proper atmosphere. An outside court, away from the main spectacle, away from the cameras and the crowd energy that a player of her growing global star power has absolutely earned and desperately needed. Now, anyone who has followed Eala's rise closely knows that she thrives in an atmosphere. Her Filipino fanbase is one of the most passionate, vocal, and dedicated supporter groups in all of tennis. They travel, they sing, they create an electricity in the stands that has genuinely rattled opponents and lifted Alex in some of her most crucial moments. Sticking her on an outside court was not just a logistical oversight. It was a statement about how little the establishment truly values what she brings to the table as a global sporting attraction. She went out there against Teresa Valentova, the highly promising 18-year-old Czech player who is very much one to watch in her own right. And for the first set, Alex dug deep into whatever reserves she had left and produced an absolute battle. A tiebreak set that swung back and forth like a pendulum, with Alex saving set points and refusing to surrender, showing all the competitive heart and warrior spirit that has made her such a beloved figure worldwide. But if you were watching closely, you could see it. The heaviness in her legs. The slight hesitation between steps that is not hesitation at all, but pure physical depletion. The way she was leaning on her racket during changeovers, just a little more than usual. The labored breathing between points that tells you the body is screaming for rest it was never given. She clawed through the first set 7-6, but at a cost that was devastating to witness. The match ended, and then the real storm began. Within minutes of the final point, the toxic corners of the internet did what toxic corners of the internet always do. Certain segments of what can only be described as the most shameful elements of the online sports community began flooding social media with the kind of cruel, ignorant, and deeply personal attacks that have absolutely no place in sport or in human decency. Not just rival fan bases from other countries, which would be bad enough, but a poisonous minority within the Filipino online community itself. People who wave the flag when things are going well and then sharpen their knives the moment a result does not go their way. They questioned her stamina. They mocked her preparation. They called into question her heart, her dedication, and her desire, as if any one of them has spent a single day doing what Eala does. Training thousands of miles from home at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Manacor, Spain. Sacrificing birthdays and family dinners and normal teenage experiences. Grinding on court for hours every single day. Competing in the most demanding professional sports circuit in the world as a young woman still in the early years of her professional career. The cruelty was breathtaking, and it was too much. Alex's mother had been watching all of it. The brutal schedule, the outside court scheduling insult, the physical breakdown of her child on that court in Doha, and then the flood of vile commentary from people who have never come close to achieving even a fraction of what her daughter has accomplished. Something inside her reached its absolute breaking point, and she exploded in a way that has reverberated around the world. Her words were not just a statement. They were a declaration, a war cry, a maternal roar of such raw power and such blazing authenticity that it cut straight through every layer of sports media noise and landed directly in the hearts of millions of parents, athletes, and fans globally. My daughter sacrificed everything for the nation. Why do they choose to abuse and criticize her again? Those words. Read them again. Feel their weight. She did not stop there. She issued a fierce, pointed indictment of the WTA scheduling machine and its complete disregard for the physical and mental well-being of young players. She called out the tournament organizers for their failure to properly recognize and appropriately schedule one of the most marketable and exciting young talents currently competing on the women's tour. She drew a line in the sand against every single individual who had chosen cyberbullying over compassion, cruelty over support, and cowardice over basic human decency. She made it personal. She made it powerful. She made it impossible to ignore. And then she delivered the ultimatum that has sent shockwaves through every corner of the professional tennis world. Within 24 hours, the WTA must issue a formal, clear, and public statement acknowledging the urgent need to reform their scheduling practices as they pertain to young players. Not a carefully worded corporate non-answer designed to placate and then be forgotten. A real, substantive, meaningful commitment to change. A commitment to treating athletes as human beings rather than content-generating machines to be programmed into as many tournaments as possible to maximize broadcast revenue and tournament fees. If the WTA fails to respond, if they hide behind their offices and their press officers and their carefully managed public relations machinery, then the Eala camp has made absolutely clear that they will escalate. They will bring this issue to global sporting organizations. They will engage player protection agencies. They will take this fight to every platform and every authority that has the power to force genuine change on the tour. Now, let us be real with each other here on Champions Tennisitics, because that is what we do. Is this 24-hour ultimatum going to magically revolutionize the WTA overnight? Probably not. Institutions as large and as financially complex as the WTA do not change course in a day. But that is precisely why this moment is so important. Because the conversation that is happening right now, the one that Alex's mother has forced onto the front page of global sports media, is a conversation that has been desperately needed for years. The issue of player burnout on the professional tennis circuit is not new. It is not unique to Alex Eala. Players across the tour, from the very top of the rankings to the promising young stars just breaking through, have spoken in hushed, careful tones about the relentless grind, the impossible schedule, the mandatory tournament requirements, and the physical and mental toll it takes. But speaking in hushed, careful tones has not produced change. What happens when a fierce, fearless, loving mother decides she is done being quiet and careful? You get a movement. You get a reckoning. You get a moment that cannot be swept under the carpet or buried in a press release. And while all of this is unfolding at the institutional level, there is an equally important conversation happening about cyberbullying in sports. The treatment of athletes on social media has reached a point of genuine crisis. We have seen what happens when toxic online cultures are allowed to run unchecked. We have seen brilliant, sensitive human beings reduced to tears, to silence, to considering walking away from their careers entirely because they cannot take the relentless, faceless cruelty of a keyboard warrior sitting in their bedroom believing they are entitled to tear down a world-class athlete because a match did not go the way they wanted. Alex Eala is not just a tennis player. She is a young woman. She is a daughter. She is a human being who feels every word, every insult, every accusation hurled at her online, no matter how hard she tries to tune it out. Her mother seeing that. A mother watching her child suffer not just physically on a tennis court, but emotionally from the cruelty of strangers hiding behind screens. Reaching the end of her rope is something every parent can understand and every decent human being should respect. Now let us talk about what comes next, because the story does not end in Doha. Alex Eala is a fighter. She always has been and she always will be, and she is not the type to stay down for long. Her eyes are already set on the Dubai Tennis Championships, the next stop on the Middle Eastern swing, where she will have the opportunity to reset, refocus, and remind the entire world exactly why she is considered one of the most exciting players in the game right now. The question on everyone's lips is whether she will be given adequate preparation time, whether the scheduling will respect her body's need to recover, and whether the circus of controversy surrounding this week will fuel her or drain her further. Those who know Alex believe without a shadow of a doubt that she will channel every ounce of this pain, every drop of this anger, and every piece of this controversy into her tennis. She has done it before. She will do it again. And beyond Dubai, the rest of the 2026 season stretches out with enormous possibilities for a player who has already shown she belongs at the very highest level of the sport. The clay season, the grass season, Roland Garros, Wimbledon. Every milestone on the calendar is now within genuine reach for a player who has broken into the top 40 and shows absolutely no signs of stopping her upward climb. The talent is undeniable. The work ethic is legendary. Let us also give proper credit and attention to the global response that has erupted in support of Alex and her family. Across the Philippines, the public reaction to her mother's statement has been overwhelmingly supportive. National figures have spoken out. Sports journalists who have long been cautious about criticizing the WTA have begun asking pointed, uncomfortable questions. Filipino communities around the world have rallied with a unified voice of solidarity. Even within international tennis circles, the conversation about scheduling reform and player protection has gained a new, urgent energy that was not there before. The WTA Players Association, player advocates, and several prominent current and former players have been carefully watching developments, and there is a real sense that this moment could serve as a genuine turning point if the institutional response is handled well, or a genuine crisis if it is mishandled. The truth is, what Alex Eala represents goes so far beyond tennis. She represents the possibility of what happens when talent from a non-traditional tennis powerhouse is given the chance to compete on equal footing. She represents the next chapter of women's tennis, a chapter written by players from Asia, from Southeast Asia, from parts of the world that the sport's governing bodies have historically treated as secondary markets rather than primary sources of world-class athletic talent. Her success is a living, breathing argument for greater diversity, greater investment in non-European and non-American talent pipelines, and greater respect for the athletes who come from those parts of the world and carry not just their personal ambitions, but the hopes and dreams of entire nations on their rackets every time they step on the court. To the WTA, and we say this directly and without apology, the world is watching. Your response to this situation will define how you are seen not just in the Philippines, but by every young player from every corner of the globe who is watching to see whether this institution genuinely cares about their well-being or whether it views them purely as revenue-generating commodities. This is your moment to demonstrate leadership. This is your moment to show that the lessons of player burnout and mental health crises that have defined so much of professional sports discourse in recent years have actually been absorbed. Do not waste it. To the toxic bashers, and we say this with the kind of directness that this platform was built on, there is never, under any circumstances, a justification for the kind of cruelty that was directed at Alex Eala after that match in Doha. This is a young woman who has given everything for her country, who has lived away from her family and her home since she was a teenager, who has trained through injuries and setbacks and all the invisible struggles that professional athletes carry in private while the public only sees the results column. She deserves better. She deserves your support, your patience, and your understanding. And if you cannot find it within yourself to offer those things, the very least you can do is stay silent. To Alex, because we know the Champions Tennisitics family is in your corner, and we want you to feel that. The entire world sees what you have done, the history you have made, the sacrifices you have made, the courage it takes to compete at the highest level while carrying the weight of national expectation and public scrutiny that would crush most people. This defeat in Doha does not define you. It is a chapter, not the story. The story of Alexandra Eala is still being written, and based on everything we have seen from you so far, the most extraordinary chapters are still ahead. The 24-hour clock is ticking. The WTA needs to respond. The tennis world needs to change. And Alex Eala needs to know that an army of fans, supporters, and passionate voices are standing right behind her as she fights not just for her career, but for the rights and dignity of every young athlete who will come after her. This is Champions Tennisitics, and this is exactly why we do what we do, to give voice to the stories that matter, to shine light on the injustices that need to be exposed, and to stand in solidarity with the athletes who pour their hearts and souls into a sport they love. If this story moved you, if it fired you up, if it made you feel something, then do us one favor right now. Smash that like button with everything you have got. Drop your thoughts in the comments because this is a conversation that deserves every voice. And make sure you subscribe to Champions Tennisitics so you never miss a single explosive update as this story continues to develop. We will be here. We will keep watching. And we will keep fighting for the truth. Because
let's
Alex
talk about
Eala
what
deserves
comes next.
nothing less.
Because the
and
Eala
neither do
story
you.
is
Is far from over. In fact, if anything, this